Good evening and thank you for joining us. This is PIPOZ Parliament and of course I'm Pilato. This program is brought to you by People's Action for Accountability and Good Governance in Zambia, PAAGZ, with support from OSISA. This program will endeavor to bring as many voices as possible and allow as many people as possible to discuss and engage on issues affecting the people of Zambia and issues of interest to the citizens of this country. I must apologize that my network is not the best today, as I'm broadcasting from the bush, where we came to do some work. So I had to improvise on the light and the network and all of that. My guest this evening is Mr. Elias Munsha, who is a lawyer, and Mr. Richard Mulonga, who is the CEO for Bloggers of Zambia. Our topic of discussion this evening is Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Bill, which passed the third reading in Parliament, and just waiting for President Lungu to wake up one day and say, I'm signing this bill into law. But before we get to that moment when the President will sign it into law, the people that will be governed by this law must understand what it entails, what is in this law, what should they expect should this become law. And that's what my panel will be discussing today, trying to explain and allow us to understand what this means. Mr. Mlonga, where is the bill and what are we waiting for?
The bill should be with the President right now because it went through the processes in Parliament. So we understand from our social studies in Zambia that the bill is generated by drafters, and then it goes to Parliament to go through the 3 stages of reading, and then it goes for presidential assent. So the Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Bill has gone through the 3 readings in Parliament. So we suspect that it is on the table of the President for his consideration to sign into law, or maybe send it back so that it can be re-looked, especially with some of the conversations that have come from people like that man in Canada there, people like myself and others who think that we can still do some work to refine the law and come up with a law that can adequately govern and provide the cybersecurity and combat cybercrime incidences in the country. Yeah, that is it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Munsha, you don't like this law, do you?
No, I don't like this law. I don't like certain sections of the law. So what they did was, up to today, the current law that governs cyber crimes in Zambia is known as the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act number 2009. So the law that is governing cyber crimes is from 2009. And in fact, the new law, the Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Bill, the bill number 2, the one that Mr. Mlonga mentions is probably with President Lungu waiting for him to sign it into law, is actually just one of the 2 acts, one of the 2 bills. So they've split the 2009 Act into 2. So the first one carries the old name, and then this new one is the one that they say is the Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Bill. And so this new bill, I'll be calling it Bill number 2, actually contains nearly everything from the 2009 Act, except for a few sections. So there is one section on child pornography, which would still have been covered by the old act because pornography is still pornography. And saying child pornography does not necessarily mean that you have now made it easier to combat it. So those are some of the worrying sections in the new bill. The other thing is, what is worrying is the idea that if you emotionally cause something that emotionally distresses somebody, you could in fact be liable for at least 5 years imprisonment. So those are the most dangerous sections of Bill number 2, the Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Bill.
So, from your own assessment of this bill, does this bill in any way address cyberbullying? Because cyberbullying is a marketing point. Cyberbullying is a marketing point. Everybody, almost everyone on social media and Twitter is concerned with cyberbullying. Are you in any way justifying, are you in any way saying cyberbullying is okay? Are you saying you don't like this law because you are supporting cyberbullying? Or does this law in any way appear to be fighting or addressing the issues of cyberbullying?
So I have printed the bill in, I have it here. And I tried to search to see whether the term cyberbullying actually appears in the bill, and it doesn't. Even where the definitions are, that is in part 1 of the bill, they have defined cyber, they have defined cybercrime, they've defined cyber ecosystem, they've defined cyber inspector, cyber security. They've not defined what cyberbullying is. And so it does not appear to be addressing the thing that they are saying it addresses, unfortunately. However, the biggest issue is that they are now criminalizing causing emotional distress. Maybe that is what they mean by cyberbullying. So if you cause emotional distress on somebody, you could be liable to 5 years imprisonment. Maybe that is what they meant.
Richard, sorry, yes. Richard, does this law say it will address cyberbullying?
So that is the thing, that the word cyberbullying has been politicized and has been weaponized, and it has been marketed at even a very high level, like the president, because of the way we are doing things. There's a lot of propaganda. What is the problem that we have seen with the internet and especially social media in Zambia? And how do we expect this law that has been proposed to deal with that problem that I mentioned in question 1, if I may put it that way? So if cyberbullying is the problem that we have, for us, in our engagement, we asked for two things also. That one, what is the extent of cyberbullying in Zambia? Give us the empirical evidence. Give us the statistics. Okay. 2, in this bill, even according to even Comrade Munsha there, this bill, how many times is cyberbullying mentioned? So if you are trying to cure a problem, it should be at the heart of the law that you're making. So you can see that there's a hullabaloo. There's even at presidential level, there's this weaponization, there's this politicization of issues, there are these gimmicks, and you see, for us, it's not something new. I know we'll discuss this later on. Cyber security laws are necessary in the digital economy, this digital transformation that Africa and even Zambia is experiencing, to have cyber security laws that should make the internet resilient, that should make the internet accessible, affordable, and safe for all, especially women and children. That the kind of law we should have should be able to protect citizens from the state. But this law, it is actually protecting the state from citizens. It is actually the other way around, because it's the citizens that elect the president, the ministers, and all the public officials. But to find that this law, even the utterances we have heard from the Minister of Justice, for example, Mr. Given Luwinda, even the president himself and others, that so we are going to come up with this law that is going to protect the president and all the public officials from citizens who are insulting leaders. It is necessary in a democratic dispensation like ours for citizens to insult their leaders. I'm saying insulting, not in the literal sense, but to hold leaders accountable. That's what I mean. And the internet has become at the center for the realization of democracy. Okay, and so we are using the internet to enjoy our right to expression, to hold our leaders to account, to insult them, to call them names, because that's what they are. That's why they're in the public gallery like that. Now, because radio and television is highly regulated by law in Zambia, everyone is going to the internet to basically perform their civic duties of participation in the democracy and governance processes, expanding on the democratic process. And this law now is coming like a penal code, is the Public Order Act of the internet and all this and that. So we'll discuss the other details later. So that's why, even if cybersecurity laws are necessary, but not this kind of law that has got certain clever provisions that are slid in, that they're put in there, and they could be used for you who is in the bush protesting and me who is trying to hold leaders to account that we're insulting leaders.
So what I'm happy you've mentioned that. I want us to watch this clip and we can discuss after it's shown.
In our province, the president has been doing that. So I hope and trust that the people, the residents of Lusaka, they have been getting and taking presidential address through parliament seriously, because the president has given so far a lot of updates to the nation through parliament. But what we are seeing now, it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. We are now seeing people coming up and start demeaning the office of the president, insulting the president. That office of the president is a very important office. We need to respect that office. The person in that office, we need to give him the same respect with the office. We can't start assaulting the office of the president with impunity. Then as a nation, we don't have national values. I can assure you that we need dignity to be maintained for that office. We need integrity to be maintained for this country. And we can only do that if we follow the national values. If you follow the national values are very important, extremely important. It's a mirror of the nation, national values. If you want to develop these national values, that's where you find patriotism. It's in national values. Principles, it is there in national values. And you can't develop the country without being patriotic to your country. You can't. We have seen people now with this social media which have come. It is now a fashion for some of our young men and women using social media to start demeaning the office of the presidency. We are not going to allow that. Especially as Lusaka province, we are not going to allow that. We are not going to tolerate that type of lawlessness here in Lusaka province. A president is not a yo-yo. A president is not a yo-yo where anyone can come and start tossing him here, tossing him here, it won't work. It won't.
I'm sure you watched the video, Mr. Munsha, and yes. You, Mr. Richard. Mr. Munsha, I would like you to share with us. I'm sure you've heard of people that were arrested for making Facebook posts that were judged as defamatory, even before the cybersecurity bill or law was in place. What law did they use to determine that these people had actually defamed the president on social media? What instruments of the Constitution, what instruments, I don't know what to say, what law did they use to determine that these particular individuals that were arrested in the past had I defamed the president on social media?
Okay, now this is quite a wide topic. So there is the practical side to this, and then there is the much more philosophical side. The philosophical side in the sense that we continue debating about whether we indeed need criminal defamation laws or not. Okay. Now, as far as the law we've inherited, the penal code, much of the penal code in Zambia, we inherited it from the British. And so the penal code does have a provision where a defamation of the president is actually criminal defamation of the president is actually a criminal offense. And so the question really is, what is criminal defamation of the president? And what are the actions that actually lead to criminal defamation? Those are the questions that we shall continue to debate for a very long time. Under colonialism, of course, defamation of the queen or defamation of the head of state at that moment was aimed at ensuring that the natives did not rebel against the colonialist. Defamation of the president under the Second Republic, for example, was meant to entrench the UNIP and Kenneth Kaunda dictatorship. Now, how should the defamation of the president laws be applied in a democracy, right? That is the question. In a democracy, what should be defamation? So far, what I have seen is the people that are being charged with defamation of the president are those who actually use the word chati lechobe. That's what I've seen mostly. So you stand up and say Edgar Lungu chati lechobe. That is definitely most likely to be defamation, criminal defamation, to do that. But it cannot be criminal defamation if a person stands up, for example, and says that they suspect that the president is stealing. That should not be criminal defamation. That should be protected as part of free speech. Citizens of our country making up their minds about the way their nation is being governed. And so democracy flourishes when everybody has an opinion about what is happening in the country, and they can freely express those opinions. And we should not use criminal defamation laws in order to cripple free speech. That is where the issue is. On Facebook, and lending from what the Honorable Minister for Lusaka Province was talking about, everything he's talking about is good. Okay, so if he's talking about respect, if he's talking about national values, that's okay. But that is not the point. The point here is that citizens of our country have the right to freely debate on the affairs of their country, including saying that the president is not ruling properly, or he's stealing, or he's a weak leader, or he's corrupt. Those are opinions that our citizens should freely express. And even when it comes to insults, unfortunately, our traditions are not part of our constitution, really. But according to our constitution, our citizens have the liberty to insult. Quite all right, the penal code does criminalize some levels of insult, and we'll leave that debate to another day. But a person who feels insulted can take out a civil suit, go to the local court, Ogushita Simon, as we used to call it on the copper belt. Kumushitira Simon. You take that to the local court so that the court then looks at it from a civil point of view. The problem is when you begin using levers of the state, the police, in order to settle scores with those people you believe insulted you. If somebody calls you a prostitute, you do the same. You take them from local court, and the local court people charge them 5,000 and tell them to apologize. That is the way it is supposed to be. But on criminalization, I don't think that we need to keep use of insulting language as a criminal case under our laws, not in this democracy. because they get abused by the people in power.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mulonga, I want to understand from your perspective as well. So previously we have cases in court, we have people that were arrested, even before the cyber law and cyber crimes bill was even talked about. So we have these people that were sufficiently arrested and were taken to court, and some of them are in courts right now as we are talking. Or not in literal sense. They are with their cases in courts today of people that were arrested for commenting on Facebook, and people said, what law was used, and why can't that law be used to address cyberbullying? Why isn't that law sufficient now?
It's difficult for me to answer that question. One, because I'm not a law enforcement agent, so I can only speculate.
Yeah,
I can only speculate. Yeah, yeah. So that is the question that everyone is asking. Like, some of the provisions in the cybersecurity and the cyber crimes bill are actually, one, unconstitutional, and my colleague Musha, the learned lawyer, will agree with me. Others are purposely vague and broad, purposely. Okay. Others are a duplication of already existing subsidiary legislation, like some provisions in the Penal Code, Cap 87 of the laws of Zambia. Others are defamation laws. Is it Cap what? I've forgotten. Comrade Musha, remind me. Like the criminal defamation of the president is supposed to be. Also, the State Security Act 111 of the laws of Zambia, the one that establishes the Zambia's intelligence services, blah blah blah. So you can see that already there are people that have circulated the sex tapes. It's just last week, when 3 people were arrested in Lusaka. So which law was used to arrest those people? Why do we need additional laws, additional layers? So we find that there are so many statutes that actually do not speak to each other. They are parallel to the Constitution. They are parallel to the other law that exists. So it shows you that there's a rush to come up with a new law that we think is going to limit internet freedoms, to limit our freedoms and rights when we are on the internet, to limit what Musha referred to, that which the colonial master was doing and that which was happening in the First Republic and the other republic. Now, because everything is online and the internet has become so broad and it has offered all these opportunities, we have to come up with a public order act of the internet. We have to come up with another penal code of the internet and call it the cybersecurity and cyber crimes. When the people that ostensibly are targeting our financial technology are out there. So I'll tell you something about some of the work that we do. Because of our collaborations with other people across the continent and everywhere, there's actually research that was done by our colleagues in Nigeria called Paradigm Initiative. They noted that actually there is this tendency by most leaders in sub-Saharan Africa here to come up with laws like this bill that seemingly look okay when you read the first part, but inside there, you find that there's technical language that is used, and there are certain clauses or sections that are put in place that are used actually to descend on citizens. So, and it's digital now because of the internet. So there's this growing digital authoritarianism, the authoritarianism, but it's coming in the digital form. That when they go to African Union conclaves, they go to these international meetings like the UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly, and they are asked that your people in Uganda are crying, and the leaders claim that we are only governing by the rule of law. Now, if you look at the instruments that are using to govern by the so-called rule of law, are like this cyber security and cyber crimes bill that has got section 54, that has got all these other parts that we are going to look at time given, that citizens are being repressed, but using a legal document that looks authentic like that. So this is what we're discussing here, that this law, in as much as it is necessary, it has got certain parts, and in those parts are sections that limit our freedoms, that give certain public officials excessive and broad powers, that give certain parts of our institutions of democracy. They do not need to get a police warrant to arrest the citizens whose opinions or content that they are put on the internet they do not like. Unwelcome content.
Okay, so I'm going to play a video and I want your reactions and see if this video actually does speak to your concerns when it comes to this bill.
Call them administrators. Call them administrators. We are coming up now with a law where every administrator must be registered so that you can put ethics or a code of conduct for everyone who's going to be on that block. Because at the end of the day, we are going to arrest the person who created the WhatsApp group or the editor or coordinator of the blog. And that should not be the end game.
Okay.
Can I play that again? Did you get what was said in that video?
I think I did.
Mr. Mlonga,
Not
did
at
you?
all.
I play it again.
Actually, I was supposed to be on that program. My colleague is on that program. I understand very well, and it's something that I understand very well.
I like the clip. Can I please play it again?
In order.
Administrators. We are coming up now with a law where every administrator must be registered so that you can put ethics or a code of conduct for everyone who's going to be on that block. Because at the end of the day, we are going to arrest the person who created the WhatsApp group or the editor or coordinator of the blog. And that should not be the end game.
Okay.
Is this the law that he was talking about? Is this cyber? Mr. Musha, when you listen to that and you look at what you've read in the cyber crimes and cybersecurity bill, is this what he was talking about?
So the problem with the cybersecurity bill is that it has several vague language in the sense that they can actually use it to create several other illegal bodies, paramilitary bodies, away from the law. Because if you notice, the major bodies that they have introduced, let me go through some of them. So ZICTA is going to create another body within ZICTA. So they're going to create another body within ZICTA, and that is the body that is going to be tasked with cybersecurity or cyber crimes or something like that. Okay, and the terms of reference for this particular body are too general and too vague. So they can use that as a way to try and cramp down on people's freedoms on the internet and outside the internet. But there is also another council that they've created. The minister can create another council. I'll just go to where the names of these organizations that they are creating are, okay? So ZICTA is going to create Zambia Computer Incidents Response Team. Now that is dangerous. So what will this team be doing? So what that gentleman was talking about could be covered by this team that ZICTA is going to create. But more than that, the minister also is going to create another body that is known as the Central Monitoring and Coordination Center. Now, this Central Monitoring and Coordination Center is already part of the law now. It's already part of the 2009 Act. So we don't know whether it was operationalized, and if so, what was the problem that they had with it. And then there will be another National Council for Cybersecurity Council, which is going to be convened by the minister. National Cybersecurity Advisory and Coordinating Council. These are the two most dangerous bodies, I think, that the cybersecurity bill creates without giving very specific guidance as to the roles of these bodies. That is one of the things. But the second thing is what that gentleman was talking about does not make sense, because he is saying that they are going to be holding WhatsApp administrators to account. The problem with that is the focus is very wrong. Under the Zambian constitution, citizens of our country have the freedom of association, and freedom of conscience, and freedom of expression. These freedoms are fundamental freedoms of every citizen in our country. The state can only intervene in a way that is democratic and in a way that safeguards the safety of others. But the Zambian state does not have this blanket responsibility that some people think that it has of controlling what people say or how people say what they want to say. And that is the biggest misguidance that we receive from the state at the moment. The Constitution exists to protect citizens from the police, to protect citizens from soldiers, to protect citizens from the president, to protect citizens from ZICTA. That is why the Constitution exists. That is why the Constitution gives us these rights and these liberties. The state always wants to limit people's freedoms, always, because they don't want to be criticized. They want, when they buy an airplane, Air Manone, for an Air Galoba, for 163 million, they don't want anyone to be able to question that. That is how selfish the state may be. But the Constitution comes in to protect this citizen who has an opinion about the misdeeds of the government. That is what the Constitution does. But that gentleman is misguided because he thinks that he needs to go and control what people are doing in their WhatsApp groups. That is wrong. It's unconstitutional. And if that was the intent of this law, then it is against our constitutional liberties. It's a violation of the Constitution.
Mr. Mlonga, do you think this cybersecurity bill and crimes is speaking to what we were promised by Mr. Mofia, the ZICTA director? Do you think this is what this bill is about?
So I'm going to discuss his utterances with a very heavy heart, because to discuss what he was saying on that program, wasting airtime on the national broadcaster, is reducing ourselves to that level. You see, it's mocking our democracy. You get a point. So what he was saying there is actually what we are seeing in the bill, like Section 54, especially Section 54 of the bill, which I can read, or Munsha there can read. Because what he was saying is exactly what three conclusions that we have with the bill. It's necessary. Yes, cybersecurity laws are necessary. There are parts in this bill that are necessary for combating cyber crimes in the Zambian internet ecosystem. But there are three major things which I think Munsha has spoken to. One, this bill, and we'll go to the specifics. This bill provides for unconstitutional and unnecessary restrictions to internet freedoms, especially the freedom of expression. Okay, we'll cite. So you can go to Section 54, the one that is talking about a publication of information. If you share information in form of a photograph, blah blah blah, threatening the security and safety of an individual with intent, and you are liable to that 5 years and the fine or both. You can see that Section 54 actually is meant to limit our freedom of expression, because nowadays we create all these memes, we go live like we are, we share photographs of our leaders when they are not delivering, when they dip their fingers in the cookie jar and all that. And when we talk about that, then Section 54 of the bill is going to be invoked on us. The other thing that this bill is doing is that it is giving the Minister of Transport and Communications and ZICTA a lot of powers to create agencies that should be used to literally monitor and regulate everything that we are doing on the internet. Now, that is not good because we're a democracy. We're supposed to have freedom. Democracy is about freedom. So when the minister sees that there is people are using the internet to criticize leaders, to share electoral information and all that, they can use the CERT, the Computer Incident Reporting Team. A CERT is necessary in cyber security. But the way it has been introduced in this bill, which gives the minister all those powers, is not health for the growth of our democracy. It's not health for our freedom. That's what we are saying this bill is. So the other thing is that this bill does not give what is called judicial oversight. For example, if the police have to come and arrest someone, they need they need a warrant, right? So, but they find that this bill in certain sections, it gives that the police have to get a warrant to come and search you and apprehend you and also collect all your gadgets for evidence. But in the other part, which I'll mention later as we move in the conversation, it tells the police that they don't have to get a warrant. No, in a democracy, the police powers, the minister's powers, the powers of ZICTA, the powers of every institution must be limited within the law because there's potential for abuse and excesses. So this bill is facilitating for actions of our people in the police, for the minister and other law enforcement agencies, that they can act and be able to enforce the law without oversight, okay? So this is what we have a problem with the law, because you can see that it is purposely vague, that the minister should have these powers that are broad, that there should be no judicial oversight to get a warrant from the court, that our freedom of expression should be limited ultimately. So that is the thing, and this is why we want everyone to listen to this, because as long as you are an internet user, you should be concerned about this bill. Should read it. It is technical. Even Mushade, I think, would agree that some of the terminology, actually, you need hours to research to understand what they're really talking about. Now, what about the man on the street, about the common internet user? They don't know. And remember, our law also provides that ignorance is not a defense. So you have a law that you cannot understand, but it's being applied to you. That is not fair. We're in a democracy, so there's need for education. There's need to slow down. There's need for people to understand what this law provides for, unlike these provisions that we are discussing here.
Okay, so I'm gonna play another clip, and we can discuss it afterwards. I want to shed more light of where we are coming from and where we are in terms of regulation.
With word going round that government, through the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Services, wishes to close down a private-owned print and online media, News Diggers. Minister in charge, Dora Silia, says it is not government's position and intention on the issue with News Diggers. Ms. Silia explains that her ministry is only engaging in counsel with a cited media house, as mandated to ensure that media in the country operates as supposed to under the current Independent and Broadcasting Authority, IBA, rules and regulations.
Let me just start by saying that I think government is not necessarily blaming you. We are holding each other's hand, because we know that social media is not going anywhere. We know that citizen journalism is not going anywhere. It is here to stay. All of us are on social media. And I think that the journalists, you've made great strides by saying that you want to be recognized as professional journalists. I think you have made great strides, because nobody thought it was possible to have that discussion in this country. And that's why we keep supporting you and separating you from those who are hiding behind phones and behind computers. And that's why we'll have meetings like this, so that we can engage further. This is all part of government's efforts to say, let us continue to engage further, because we know you're also on social media. And when you see something that is fake, because you've investigated it, even your engagement will be, the social media will be, this is not true because I have investigated it. This is one of the things that we're trying to do. And in fact, we are not blaming you. We keep trying to say, please, you are our partners, because the 17 million Zambians are depending on us and on you together to give them what is true.
She has, however, stated that abrogation to the IBA rules and regulations will in turn attract stiff measures and outcomes. It is on record that a reporter from the News Diggers published an article with defamatory reports in 2019, which led to the firm being sued under the courts of law. Reporting for Movie TV News in Lusaka, Namangolwa Mundia.
Thank you very much to Movie TV for that brilliant report. And obviously we have clips from ZNBC, we have clips from Diamond TV, and we say thank you to these institutions. Why I played that video, I want us, Mr. Munsha, I want us to discuss the IBA and their power when it comes to regulating broadcast institutions. So we had the Post newspaper closed. The reason why the Post newspaper was closed, we were told it didn't pay taxes. So the voice of the people in that instance just disappeared. We had the Prime television station also closed, and we were told that, I don't know, but they gave a good reason, so people just got it and we moved on. This report we've just watched is about News Diggers and social media. So News Diggers is a new newspaper that we seem to accept that it's a voice of the people. So people with our views, people with views that may not be accommodated in this public media, find comfort, find the News Diggers as a platform of expression. In this particular report, there were rumors and stories that the Minister of Information was targeting News Diggers and was trying to close it up, to shut it up. And then that conversation went to social media. This is a trend that we've come to learn, that the government is quick to shut down every media institution that seems to provide platforms to people with different views, different from the government or those that dance with the government. Are we right to think that this cybersecurity bill is about shutting down people's voices through regulation? Are we justified to think that this is an attempt? Of course, they can't just close the internet because also it works for them. But is this an attempt by the state to do what they've done to other media institutions? Is this the government trying to say, those that criticize us, those that argue and disagree with us cannot argue anymore because we arrest them, and this is the law that we use to arrest them?
I think that's what the cybersecurity and cybercrimes bill is all about. It creates all these vague institutions, particularly the two vague institutions, and then clothes them with vague terms of references or objectives that can be used at the end of the day to clamp down on nearly everything. I think citizens should be very well concerned with that, because whatever this government wanted to do or accomplish, it could using previous legislation. There is nothing new that the cybersecurity bill brings that will help us have a safer internet, for example. No, there's nothing. A cybercrime was defined in 2009, and this new bill does not introduce any new cybercrimes necessarily, except to introduce those aspects of cybercrime that go to intimidating the free expression of citizens' ideas. That is the major concern. On the issue of the television and television closing, it's very clear that the state is using institutions of the state to persecute legitimate news organizations. So they are using institutions of the state. Recently, we understand that some gentlemen wrote letters to NAPSA and wrote letters to the Zambia Revenue Authority in order for them to investigate a particular news organization that you mentioned, which had published some honeybee corruption. So this is a sign that this government would like to use the institutions of the state as much as possible to stop news organizations from doing their legitimate work. On the other hand, when we say that we support news organizations, we are not saying that news organizations have a free hand to do whatever they want to do. Our concern is, if you have a problem with a news organization, right? You take that news organization to court under civil law proceedings. If it's defamation, whatever it is, you take them to court. Let them go and explain in court. But do not use institutions of the state in order to get at organizations that are freely expressing their ideas. So if a particular person feels aggrieved by whether Movie TV or Prime TV or News Diggers has written, well and good, go to court, go and appear before a judge, prove your case of defamation. Do not use the police, do not use our sacred guns and tear gas in order to frustrate the work of news organizations. That should not be tolerated.
Richard, one of the things that the minister said in that clip was fake news. Why are you not worried that social media and the internet has become a platform for fake news? Everybody is worried. Why are you not worried that social media is a platform for fake news, and this bill is actually trying to stop fake news? Your mic is on mute.
I'm saying that first of all, I am a journalist. I've spent not less than 15 years in the newsroom. I've done. I'm still doing journalism training. I have presented papers. I've been a guest, even in the US, to talk about journalism. In the School of Journalism, that word, those two words you're mentioning do not exist. News can never be fake. So if there's some information that is not true, I'm coming to that. That is not true. Let's just give it a name that maybe it's misinformation or it's lies and all that. So we find that the word fake news in Zambia has been weaponized by people who don't like what News Diggers is doing. So they are calling all this content on Honeybee as fake news to try and discredit the news organization. But if you read what News Diggers have done, their investigation and the evidence, if someone is not feels defamed and all that, they can go before a judge and get compensation. Yeah. So let us not use the word fake news. It has been weaponized actually to inspire such laws, these bills that we are discussing here. So now there's a man called Tim Berners-Lee. He's called the father of the web. He's called the father of the internet. He's the one who started the web, the www that you punch in there before you go into a website. He's alive. I've touched him with my hand, and you ask him a question, why did you start the internet? He says, no, I actually did not know that 5 years ago that the internet will be like this in 2021, because there are applications, there's Facebook now, and there is WhatsApp, and there is all that. And he's not sad. He says, actually, it's better because the internet has opened up the world. It is helping to expand democracy. It is helping to expose wrongdoing in processes, and it is empowered citizens. And yeah, so if you speak to Tim Berners-Lee, you realize that the internet, especially social media, especially News Diggers, for example, the internet is a freedom of expression issue. So if they say that a child that does not cry dies on the mother's back, so you'd rather keep quiet, and then all the wrongdoing is just passing by your nose, or you are actually just sweeping all the dirt under the carpet, as it is happening. You see, the media sector in Zambia is regulated. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of gagging, censorship, all these beatings. It was only 2 days ago when Chete Radio in Nakonde was tear-gassed by ruling party supporters. So everyone is going to the internet to enjoy their right to freedom of expression. That's what we mean, that social media, if you ask Mark Zuckerberg, it's a freedom of expression issue. And it has empowered citizens with the tools to ensure that there is transparency in all public processes, that when there are all these fake medicines that are being distributed in Zambia, before it is swept under the carpet in the public media, where I worked for about 12 years, we have people, citizens, who are beneficiaries actually of these expired drugs, and they use Facebook, they use Twitter, they use WhatsApp actually to speak to the leaders that the medicine that is being given to us is expired. That actually even the expired medicine, before it got to us, it was bought under very expensive tenders that are stinking of corruption. That is what social media is doing. And because it has helped to expose all the wrongdoing in the Ministry of Health, and someone is becoming unpopular that they may not be popular in the August 12 elections. So the best thing is to come up with a law that will limit what kind of conversation citizens can have on the internet. That when they publish all these photos of expired drugs that they have been given, then it becomes an offense. This is what we are discussing. This is what Article 50, this is what Section 54 of this bill is doing. Even if there are other parts of this bill that we need, it has been diluted by sections like Section 54. So that's why this bill is not popular.
So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to accommodate comments and questions from our viewers so we can allow as many voices as possible. This one is coming, Lucy Snata. Lucy Snata is saying, this is a very dangerous bill. But knowing this desperate PF government, they will do anything to stop the voices of those who can call out their criminal activities. So I think Lucy seems to be agreeing with you. And Edwin Soko says, the bill had already passed third reading, meaning waiting for the president to assent to it. At this point, well, what's remaining is the president to sign it. What are you going to do to stop him? Anyone can pick it up.
What can be done to stop the president?
To stop from signing. I'm sure this time around it's just like bang, bang, bang. If
the president is listening, please don't sign the bill. Send it back to Parliament. The Law Association of Zambia has expressed its concerns, and so have various civil society organizations. Listen to them for once and do the right thing. Don't sign the Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Bill.
Richard, what should be done at this point? Because the president is holding a pen and rehearsing how he's going to do it. Like, what do you think should be done?
So laws are meant to govern people, and I think the president is a leader of all the people. So laws, we must all collectively agree. Senate democracy, yes. Even if I don't think we haven't counted who are the majority and all that in the Democrats and all that. So we can appeal to the president not to sign the law because we feel it gives too much power to him and his minister and Zicta, and we know that too much power in one man's hands is dangerous. We want a law that we're going to be happy about, that we're going to be comfortable with. We can appeal to his conscience. We can appeal to what Mr. Bowman Lusambo said in the other video that you played, that this should be about our morals and values. We don't think that this law has that potential to inspire those laws and values that we aspire as a nation. So we would like to speak to the president, appeal to his moral conscience, that yes, there could be people around him that have instigated him or inspired him that he should sign this law, but he's the final authority, he's the father of the nation, and that he agrees with that. He's a lawyer. Article 54 of the bill, for example, if it is given in the hands of certain individuals, it may infringe on the freedoms that the president has been entrusted to, unleash on we, his people. So there are other strategies that I can discuss that can be done, but we think that the president should listen to his conscience, and he should also listen to the voice of the people.
My network, like I said, is a little funny. I hope you are back.
Yeah, but it has held off very, very fine. We are now at the 55-minute mark without problems. So
without problems, yeah. So I think it's behaving well.
What Musa is trying to say is that we only have 5 minutes remaining before we can close the broadcast.
So,
no, I can stay here all day.
This is an interesting name. Murphy's Declarations Bunny says, days are numbered for this desperation government. If the laws are not respecting the human dignity, it's dead and dangerous. So allow me to just read as many as possible, then we can choose which ones you're going to respond to. Ishe Tunawan says, we were crippled in the menacles of just subjugation and colonialism by our colonial masters. Just because Edgar lacks probity, it does have to silence us by a bogus bill. Keshas Mumba Jr. Badi says, how possible is it that the yet to be vetoed bill is going to allow the ruling party to have more power and sit on the rights of citizens, more especially during the August elections? Are we going to be the photocopy of Uganda? This one says, Alex Tech says, it's not easy to stop him from signing it because he will be the beneficiary of that bill. Silas is saying, the law is for the people. The problem is that politicians think they rule forever. Kabimba threatened to close down prime televisions at the same time, but it gave him a platform after he was fired as SG. Let's make laws that won't haunt us in future. Some more. I'm just picking random contributions. This one is Monica Achenda. They want to do the Ugandan way. Okay. This one is Muhammad Mukamunga. The problem is that the man who has the pen has no heart for the people. The way we are talking about it in a good way to him, it's like a challenge.
Yeah.
So there are so many messages that we may not have time for, and we are at the 58 minute, meaning we have 2 minutes. Richard, is there something that you feel we should have talked about that we didn't, and you'd like to make mention here?
Yeah. As for the comments, I think people are mentioning Uganda. I think they are referring to internet shutdown. Like during an election, the internet is just closed because people use it to mobilize themselves. People use it to compare electoral results. People use it to just participate in the electoral cycle and expanding on the democracy. And I think this law, so remember those, they set the computer instant reporting teams and all that we referred to earlier on, they could be used actually. This law gives the minister, remember we talked about those wide powers of the minister and all that. The minister actually could go to internet service providers and command them in the name of the president to close the internet because people are exchanging results. And I think I've seen I stand to be corrected. I think there's also the electoral code of conduct. Is it the electoral what is being amended also to restrict how you can share elections results? So I would just like to urge citizens to be alert, to defend the internet, especially social media, from the weaponization, that there's abuse of social media, that there is cyberbullying, because this will come against you because the internet, actually there's a lot of policy inconsistency. There's this apparent departure from the rule of law that you find that someone may not, in Zambia, may not even need this law or any other law to close the internet at a critical activity in democracy, such as elections, and then would be like Uganda. You know, in Uganda, there's still some parts of Uganda that still don't have internet after the January shutdown. Remember in Zimbabwe it happened. Remember it happened in the Congo. Remember in Tanzania, up to now they are still gnashing their teeth. Remember, even in the Tigray region in Ethiopia, there is no internet, and they're going into an election, and I think Tigray region is not participating in the elections because they don't have internet. So look at also the cost of an internet shutdown. We have an estimator. Go and Google it. The cost of internet estimator. Look at how, if the internet is shut down in Zambia for 1 minute, how the economy is going to be affected. If the internet is shut for an hour and 2 days, you find that especially under the COVID-19, where there's social distancing and digital interaction, most of the conversations, businesses on the internet, we bank, we buy things on the internet. Imagine it is closed because of elections. And then the economy just, with the inflation that is at 22% somewhere there, you find that our lives are just going to be worse than our brothers and sisters across the Zambezi there in southern Rhodesia. I mean, in Zimbabwe. Yeah. So that is what I would just like to implore citizens to just be alert and just, we need to perform our civic duties, speak truth to power, engage, not in a confrontational way, but we have to engage and ask our leaders to give us the kind of laws that we think are able to govern and be able to deal with the problems that we have seen with the internet. Yeah.
Mr. Munsha, anything you feel we should have talked about, but we didn't, and you feel it's important, would you be able to close with those thoughts?
I think Zambians should continue enjoying their freedoms. They should continue bringing visibility to corruption. They should continue calling their leaders to account. And I don't think this law changes that particular commitment of our people to ensure that there is good government, to ensure that leaders are held accountable, to call leaders by their name. Imfumu taituka abantu eba tuke mfumu. So we don't expect that this is going to change in any case. Citizens should continue talking and exchanging ideas and freely expressing themselves about what is to come. Much more crucially, between now and August, people should remain vigilant. They should campaign freely. And on the election day, they need to elect representatives and a government that is going to look after their interest. This idea that we are supposed to elect leaders that take care of their own interest is over. This time around, let the people of Zambia elect into office the people that they believe are going to take care of Zambians' interests. Otherwise, it should be business as usual. Business as usual indeed. Keep it up, Pilato, with what you do. You are a very valued member of civil society, and your country is proud of what you do, so keep on doing it. And we encourage all the other members of civil society, like you, Mr. Mlonga, continue doing what you are doing. We know that you that are actually on the ground in Zambia face a lot more challenges than we do. I'm here in my office. I have no fear whatsoever that anyone is going to come knocking on my door, but we are providing air support to you troops that are on the ground, not for your own personal interests, but for the interest of your country. So keep on doing what you are doing, and we assure you that we are going to provide the air support you need.
Thank you very much. And gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Before closing, I would love to pay my debts with the sponsors of this program. And so I'm going to play a video and then we'll get back and then I say my goodbyes, then we're done. So,
a mother is due to give birth to her baby. She'll need a sanitary clinic with electricity, running water, medicine, and a doctor. But where she lives, these are not a guarantee. What she doesn't know is that she's entitled to more from her government, and she isn't empowered to ask for change. Social accountability can solve her problem. It's an approach by PIPOZ Action for Accountability and Good Governance in Zambia, working in different communities to help make government spending and services more effective. This involves informing the mother and her community what services they are entitled to, and facilitating dialogue between the mother and her health worker. Together, they can find ways and make services more accessible and appropriate with limited resources. The whole community can be involved in monitoring health services, recording medicine stockouts, and reporting each time the doctor is absent. They use this evidence to advocate for better government spending and services. With these efforts, she has the best chance of having a healthy baby. But it doesn't have to stop there. Social accountability can improve education, food security, and access to clean water. Some of the important things her child needs for a healthy, productive future. People's Action for Accountability and Good Governance in Zambia, PAAGZ.
Thank you very, very much. And we are back here next week, Friday, same time, same place, and we'll be discussing another important topic. And as we continue to accommodate as many voices as possible on issues that affect our community, our country. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. And we say bye.
All right, bye.